But so the Flash film news again. They DM'd Ezra Miller on Instagram, and this was during the time when there were all these leaks and stuff where people are saying that the Snyderverse will be erased, which itself is a ridiculous thing, which we'll talk about. But someone, from the Flash Film News DM'd Ezra Miller, and they basically asked, fans are going crazy thinking the movie is erasing Zack's movies. They don't see the potential this movie has. So Ezra Miller, in his typical Ezra Miller fashion, just replies, no power or force in any known megaverse would or could ever erase Zack Snyder's mighty works. You can take that quote, take it to the bank, to the press, to the schools, to the military, and the other pillar of capitalism. I'm forgetting because of that thing where if you try to think of a group of things, you always forget one of them. So
What does that mean?
that means he's just being Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
I envy
Dude,
his, I envy
he
his,
speaks like this in
Instagram
interviews.
game.
He just goes on in random tangents when talking about things. So
I remember when he first joined Instagram, and like people were saying, "Oh, he's following all the people from the Snyder Cut
yeah,
movement or the fans and stuff." So I followed him. Yeah, I followed him, and he followed me back. And I was
truly.
like, you know what? I'm gonna chance my arm. I'm gonna send him a message just to see what happens. Like, and I just sent him a message. Said, "Hi Ezra, I just want to say you were amazing in Zack Snyder Justice League. Thanks very much for the movie." And he replies, "Thank you, Viking." And I was like, I'm on name basis with Ezra Miller, so that's pretty cool.
yes.
He's,
So
he's a character.
look, now we know that this is not him just saying, "Oh no, we're not erasing the Snyderverse." Of course, it's just like a PR type of answer. But like he said, there's fact in that statement that he said. Nobody can erase the movies that Zack Snyder made. Nobody can do that. How is it even possible? Like I made a joke tweet because I was getting really frustrated because of all these people just worrying about, oh, they're gonna erase the Snyderverse. Like how? You have the poster behind you, Rokan. You have the Blu-rays, the 4K DVD, whatever. People have their movies. They can watch it anytime. They are on streaming. They are on HBO Max. They're everywhere. Nobody can erase them. And if the Flash movie is changing timelines, which I would like to call it, then that's even better. I've been saying this since 2020 that, it's better for the DCEU to be separated from the Snyderverse because look, when the Snyderverse was gonna happen, before Toby took over and all that happened, um, it was gonna run parallel to the DCEU, I think, on HBO Max under the Warner Max division. So that was not gonna be the same, canon as the DCEU. It was looked at as an Elseworld story after Zack Snyder's Justice League happened. It was also better. I think even Zack Snyder said a lot of times that it was in his own continuity. It was gonna be Elseworld, so his movies will be his continuity. He won't be, taking anything from the DCU. So I actually love that. Why have this confusing timelines and stuff when you can have two separate timelines? One for the main DCU canon, you can just keep making anything they want, and one just for Snyder. It's better for everyone. He could have done the Justice League 2 movie and, it didn't have to have any of the elements of the DCEU. They can have the same actors as Batman, Superman, and all, Wonder Woman and all that, but they don't have to follow the story that the DCEU was doing, So it was a win-win. So for me, this news is even better. And I think if The Flash actually changes the timeline and resets it, reboots it, whatever you want to call it, and the new DCEU, as they are calling it, would not have any of the Snyder elements, I would be fine with that because that actually gives Zack's movies more chance of existing in a separate continuity and actually making it happen. Because just imagine if the Flash changes the timeline and it goes on to make these the new DCU movies, which is you have Wonder Woman 3, you have Aquaman 2 or 3, and and then you have Batgirl, obviously just after that, which is directly affected by the timeline switch. Um, and when that goes on, they don't have to reference the Nightmare. They don't have to reference Darkseid. They don't have to do any of that, right? So they can keep going on making their own stories. And suppose David Zaslav, after the merger, calls up Zack and says, "We can continue your Justice League story, but it won't be, in the DCU. It'll be a separate thing on HBO Max or whatever, as a series or whatever." Isn't that a good thing? You get your Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman is dead, well, but and all that, Cyborg, Flash, Mira, and all that team, Joker, Deathstroke. You get all that on HBO Max, and you get your new DCU. You can literally choose what to watch. So I know I've been, trying to sell people on have having two continuities is a better thing, but I really think this is not something to be mad about. I know that people want the MCU type continuity where everything is one timeline. It's fine if you have multiple timelines. The multiverse, that's what it's about, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. Rock on, what do you think?
I mean, I do agree with that statement that the Snyderverse can never be erased when you see it that no matter what positive or negative thing people say about Zack's films, they're still the most talked about DC films on social media. Like if you go on Twitter right now, you're going to see somebody do a long tweet about how amazing Justice League is, or how there's no color in it or anything like that. So it's always going to be like a talking point regardless. So I do agree with that type of like sentiment. But also, that being said, I think the idea of erasing the Zack's film specifically, it feels inconsistent to me. It feels inconsistent because it does feel like it does feel like it's cherry picked, as opposed to just kind of like doing a full-on reset of those characters. You know what I mean? Like,
because they just wanted to pick the successful movies, those characters, and they wanted to ditch the ones that didn't do well, or critically didn't do well.
Yeah, and it's
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's being cherry picked, and I do not like the idea of them being cherry picked like that. I feel like if you're going to reset a timeline, you can't discriminate. Like, I look at it like this. One of my favorite comic book movies of all time is Days of Future Past. And right at the end of Days of Future Past, they reset the timeline to just X-Men First Class and Days of Future Past. They don't just erase Origins and X-Men 3. They have to erase even the good ones, X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and the Wolverine, because they just know, okay, if we cherry pick, Origins and 3, it wouldn't feel consistent. So we can't discriminate. We're just gonna just reset it from the ground up as just First Class and then Days of Future Past, which I feel like in that sense it makes more sense in that way, because you're saying, okay, nothing's being nothing's being cherry picked. It's just, that's the way it is. So I just look at it just kind of like as just it being cherry picked, and also I just look at it as just corporate douchebaggery.
And we know why they're doing it. Like the head of Warner Brothers, Toby Emmerich, doesn't like Zack Snyder, so he wants to. It's kind of a personal thing, but it's also about what he feels is good for business. He thinks that Zack's movies, or that storyline, mainly the Nightmare thing, is not good for Superman, and is not good for the Justice League, and it's not good for the overall DCEU. So the fact that they finally are embracing the other elements of the Snyderverse, like Man of Steel, Superman, and all that, BVS, they're at least acknowledging that exists. Um, and I think that is a good step, but the problem that they have now is they want that to be completely gone, and they want to move away from that world, away from that story. Which brings to the point that I was making is good for them and for us, because we can, by having these two separate, we can have choice. You know, you can easily solve the fan divide issue by having these two separate things running together. Now I know that they're not promising you the Snyderverse or anything like that, but just having a concrete separation, I think, gives it more chance of happening, because they can do both, and fans can choose to watch Peacemaker or they can choose to watch Justice League 2, you know? So I think that's a good thing. And I know I'm not saying it's not a shitty situation. It obviously is. It's the DCU. It's always shitty. And there's nothing you can do to fix it. I think it's beyond irreparable at this point. It cannot be fixed. But salvaging, from this ruins, if you will, I think they are probably doing the right thing, because I would like that. I would like the Snyderverse to be completely separate from the shit stuff like Peacemakers, dick jokes, and all that stuff. I'm not against that, but I don't feel like they belong in the same universe. I never did, and that's just me. You can't have one movie have talk about Greek gods and mythic beings in the Justice League, and in another show, Peacemaker is just saying Wonder Woman was IFing me. They don't belong in the same universe. But that doesn't mean that that's bad. They can exist, but in separate universes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do make a very kind of like good point right there, that Zach doesn't have to, like, if God willing, if 2 and 3 happen, that Zach doesn't have to abide with any sort of set timeline, that it can just be like, okay, well, I can just do
Right.
my kind of like my own kind of timeline thing,
Right.
kind of the same way Mangle did on Logan, actually, where Logan is, it does feel like its own thing. I mean, there are little like references to past adventures for Wolverine, but I feel like, okay, this connects from, it doesn't, you don't watch Logan and say to yourself, okay, this will connect to New Mutants or
Yeah,
Dark
and
Phoenix.
to your
You know
point,
what I mean?
I think one of the things that
So-
was very frustrating for the DCU fans as well as the execs the whole time was the creative difference, right? Zach wanted to do one thing, the execs were always worried about not doing it. So that was just them fighting over one canon or one continuity of the DCU. So if both can have their own continuity and canon, there would be no fights. Zach can do his own thing, they can do their own thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that is true. That's a very good point. I do want to add one last thing, because I spoke with Sean about this when the news came out. I said maybe this could actually work to Zach's advantage, because like people can watch The Flash if this happens, and they do see that the Snyderverse is, Batman vs Man and Man of Steel are getting, and Zack Snyder's Justice getting erased, and those cries for Justice League 2 and 3 to happen could be more stronger, because they can actually look at it and see kind of like that, see a director getting fucked over by the studio, kind of like how with kind of like the 2016 Ghostbusters movie, where people were kind of like saying, we don't want a Ghostbusters reboot, we just want Ghostbusters 3, and they're kind of like, we don't care, here's a Ghostbusters reboot, and comes down, people are kind of like, we wanted Ghostbusters 3. And finally, Stu's like, all right, fine, here's Ghostbusters 3, and then boom, people really like it. We feel we're kind of like, we should have
That is
gotten
a
this the
very
first
great
time.
example.
So optimistically, I'm just thinking, the cries, the cries for kind of like what people want versus what the people in the boardroom want.
Yeah.
you can see that kind of play out again.
And just to go through the chat before I give my say. Brian says that I don't think it's a race in anything. These movies happened. We saw them. And then there's two Brians in the chat right now. Brian Scully said that. Brian Cowley says the sign of a bad businessman, allowing personal feelings to influence your professional feelings. Yeah, Toby Emmerich just hates Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Brian Scully from Ireland says erasing them would be ignoring what happened at all and starting again. What it's doing is formally setting up the multiverse where everything has happened somewhere in the multiverse in some reality. And so look, my kind of Brian says Peacemaker. Yeah, Peacemaker's out tonight, I think. There's night.
It's in 8 hours from now, I think.
Oh, 8 hours? Yeah. Or I thought it was midnight in America. It drops 5 hours. No.
Yes, sorry, 5.5 hours.
It's 5.5 hours.
Yeah, looking forward to watching the first 3 episodes. That's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to watching that. 'Cause I did like Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, but the whole like erase of the Snyderverse. Yeah, I don't think it's like the films are physical there. You can watch them, of course, but I don't think it's just setting up a new timeline that we're going to be in, like Days of Future Past did. Like Logan was the only one that really remembered what happened, and everybody else, like Jean Grey and Cyclops, they had a different past. Things happen differently to them in a sense, and Logan remembers everything, and that travels into the Logan solo film where only him and Patrick Stewart are referencing different things. Even the samurai sword from Wolverine is on the wall. They talk about the Statue of Liberty from X-Men 1 or 2, different hints and Easter eggs like that. It just set up a new timeline. And I'm not concerned really by this whatsoever. Just what I'm concerned really about is whether the film is respectful towards Zack Snyder's movies in terms of, I hope it doesn't shit on Batman v Superman or Man of Steel or the Snyder Cut. I don't think it will if Ben signed on, if Michael Shannon signed on, if the VFX team and everybody has talked so positively about the movie. So I don't think that's happening. I think what they're doing is Zack's gone. A lot of these actors are gone as well. Ray Fisher, hopefully that gets resolved. Ben's done. Henry Cavill is very messy, whatever's going on there. So they're setting up a new kind of timeline. Yes, Michael Keaton's coming in, but he's going to create the Bat family. And you got Robin Pattinson and some other multiverse being the Batman. And Ben Affleck, is he going to die? I don't know. Or he could just end up somewhere else. But it's setting up a new timeline. I think, like, you talk about the distinction between Zack Snyder's universe and stuff like that. I think, like, he has canon, which is, like, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. I think Wonder Woman 1 will be his canon as well. I don't think Suicide Squad. I don't think Wonder Woman 84 will be his canon. That's just my feelings towards it. But I think the main DCU would use Wonder Woman 84 and Wonder Woman 1 as canon. Each universe has different stories that are canon for that universe. So if Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 happened, he could have callbacks to Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Wonder Woman 1 and Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And he could pick and choose parts of the main DCU that he wants to implement in his universe, and the same with the DCU. They can use Man of Steel as reference if they wanted to. They've already done it with Shazam and stuff like that. So they can do that if they want. They can pick and choose what they're using for that story. That's what the X-Men universe did. So I wouldn't say great, but that's what they did for their stories. They pick and choose what's canon for the story that they're telling. Callbacks, references. Like Steppenwolf was referenced in Aquaman. And is that the Justice League 17 one or the Snyder Cut one? You can pick and choose which one you're referencing. Darkseid didn't come in the DCU one. Darkseid did come in the Snyderverse one. So it's I'm not concerned whatsoever. Zack can still come back and make his Justice League 2. It doesn't have to tie to anything in the DCU. Or he could say, do you know what? I really like this in Aquaman 2. I might implement something like that into my Justice League 2. He can pick and choose, the same as the DC universe. But no, I Ezra Miller, like, people are saying this is a PR answer. It wasn't an interview. It was a private DM. It was a private conversation with somebody. I'm sure he would have been knowledgeable enough to know that maybe they'll leak it as well if I say anything. But he said in that thing, take it to the press or take it to the bank and to the schools, the military. So he's pretty confident about it as well. I think the past did happen. I think Ezra Miller's character will remember the past. I just think there's a new timeline being set right now. And I have no problem with it whatsoever. One of my favorites of all time is Days of Future Past as well. And I love the ending of that movie. Because it was respectful to the newer cast that came in first class, and also the OG cast. that entire film was. And but then again, it's hard to know because the X-Men universe wasn't getting rid of Hugh Jackman. They weren't trying to replace Hugh Jackman or characters like that. And the Flash movie seems to have a lot riding on it as well because the Batgirl movie seems to be dependent on it
What
too. So
the thing is, now
you
we
know,
know that Ben Affleck wants out. So it's not really the
yeah,
Flash pushing him out. He wants out.
yeah, true. Yeah, true. That is true. So, yeah, look,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hate towards Michael Keaton and stuff like that. Of course, I would love Ben Affleck to come in, but that's just what we're getting right now. It's Michael Keaton, and he's going to be setting up the Bat family with Nightwing, with Robin, with Batgirl, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. It doesn't mean we're going to love the movie, but I'm at peace right now at what the movie is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to walk in, sit down, try to enjoy it, and see what they're trying to do. I would have preferred Snyder's DCU, but like things fall all the time in the movie industry. I would love a
Quoting
sequel to Power
BVS.
Rangers.
Wow.
I would love a sequel to Power Rangers 2017. Love that
Yeah,
film, but it didn't
dude.
do well financially, and it fell apart. And it didn't happen. And there's a reboot happening on Netflix. Just you have to live with these things. They're movies at the end of the day, and maybe this new DCU will be pretty enjoyable. Maybe not as good as it could have been, but it can still be enjoyable. And someday, Justice League 2 can happen. And we'll just see how things go. And we have the Batman, we have the Joker universe that to make a 2 for that. So yeah, there's loads of good things coming our way, hopefully. I know it's frustrating, and I don't trust the higher ups at Warner Brothers to pull this off perfectly. And if the Flash fails or is received badly, does that affect the future movies like Batgirl and stuff like that? It looks like this could be a huge mess for Warner Brothers if this movie doesn't do well, and if it's a bad movie. So there's a lot riding on this. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be a Flash movie, and the main priority should be to tell a Flash movie, but it's trying to tell several other stories as well that's connected and sequels and stuff like that. That can be very, very messy. And Days of Future Past worked perfectly, but it didn't have the hangover or the shadow of trying to reboot the universe, trying to make a new timeline because this actor wouldn't sign a new contract, this actor's done, this actor wasn't received well in a movie, so we're not bringing him back. They weren't trying to fix things in their eyes, So
Yeah.
yeah, I will have to
And
see.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and that's the other issue I do have with this Flashpoint too, is that it really should be a Flash adventure. It should be a movie on Barry Allen working to get his dad out of prison, and it feels like it's trying to be that, but also to be in a Justice League 1.5 type of movie too, with bringing in Supergirl and Batman and possibly Wonder Woman and all these other, all these heroes that they're kind of like coming to play. That it does feel like it's either going to be a lot of irons in that fire that'll work, or it'll just fall apart like a house of cards. Because I mean, like the argument you can make, I've heard people make that as well. Batman vs Superman isn't a Man of Steel sequel; it's just a Justice League prequel. I'm like, yeah, that was kind of. I mean, the movie's called Dawn of Justice. It really does commit to the idea that it is a Justice League setup movie. You know what I mean? Like, So whereas they told you right off the bat. Whereas this one is called The Flash.
No, I agree with you. I think I would have loved a Flash solo movie just dealing with Flash stuff, but I also would have loved a full-on Flashpoint adaptation. But I am kind of intrigued. The Supergirl element and Batfleck element is really, exciting me to watch the movie. I think it's an interesting thing. It feels kind of like an original adaptation because there's no direct storyline in the comics for this. It's taking elements from various different comics and making something interesting, while also dealing with the DCU timeline and stuff. So, at the least, it will be an interesting watch.
Yeah, it will be, and let's just see how it goes. Like,
Yeah.
I know people aren't happy with it and stuff like that, but if you're not happy with it, go watch something else. I don't see the constant case for just being negative every single day on Twitter. It's not good for your health, mental health or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like Captain Marvel. You don't see me on Twitter every single day shitting on that movie or telling you how bad it is and stuff like that. Like, it wouldn't be good for a person's health to do that. But people online are very obsessed. Like, these people out there, they react quicker to DCU news than they do to the people who are excited for it, people who are interested in it. They react so quick. There they are, like that. It's like, this is bad.
Yeah.
And I also find the argument funny is that so like if this movie was separate from the Snyderverse, that's a really good thing. Like Casey, you said that as well.
Right.
Like that's a good thing. It doesn't touch the Snyderverse whatsoever. But then you have people going in and said, "Oh my
How
God, why are you
dare they
doing
do this to
This is, yeah,
Zack? But you
yeah.
said it's not canon.
That's if it's not canon, then let them do what they want with the stuff that's not Zack. And if they fail, and then they'll have to go back to Zack. Like, just let them do their thing over there.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to relate together. And
Yeah.
then they go, no, but it has to. Zack is the blueprint.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Okay. But just to get through these comments before, yeah, what are you going to say, Rokan?
All I was just saying is we would
Yeah.
let's just sit back and
I've said to myself, I'm not going to engage
on
on this negativity anymore or bullshit.
Yeah.
There's no point.
There's no point.
I'll
Yeah.
just talk about what I'm excited. Yeah, exactly. And like if I don't like a movie, I'll go on Twitter and I'll say, watch this and this, didn't like it. That's it, you know. And I've done that with parts of movies where I don't like, and I'll talk about it. But then like that's me dumb about it. Then I won't worry about it anymore. I'll go on to the next team because there's no point. There's no point whatsoever. We'll just get through these comments here before we go. Brian goes, The Flash, do we get a definite separation in Earths? I say this will be called Earth 2. There will be a true delineation in the worlds. Yeah, I would say they'll do something like that. They'll call this Earth 2 or Earth 3 or something like that.
No, I think this will be Earth 1. I think
Earth 1,
Hamada said that Earth 2 was the Batman Earth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I just think this is going to be a new timeline where Keaton is in and there's different villains and stuff like that. Things are kind of reset into a new timeline. The thing I kind of get always good about, I get tricky about or kind of think about too much is like, what's society's perception of like the world and history and stuff? Like how, like what's Michael Keaton's like his like the history and society and like what do people remember? Who do they remember and stuff like that? But they'll never touch that. They'll never touch that because it's too messy.
No, but I think they will, because from what we saw from the Batgirl set leaks, which we'll talk about just in a while, it seems like that's what they'll do. You know?
Think?
Yeah, change people, because look, when you change the timeline, the history of that timeline is different from the first timeline. So people will remember stuff differently. So they have to touch on that.
Yeah, I suppose like, I just wonder like if like Wonder Woman, her origin story, I wonder if it's still the same, do people still remember it and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And like the Aquaman 1, like things like that. I wonder
that's what we'll have to see.
Yeah, they probably won't go too much into it. Probably just touched on the surface, and but Brian says, or Brett says, the script must be great for the Flash if they got Michael Shannon, Antoine Trout, the woman who plays Fiora, Michael Keaton, and Ben Affleck back to finish his story as Batman. That's what I'm saying. The script can't be terrible for all of these guys to attach themselves to it. Like Michael Keaton to come back after 30 years, like it has to be pretty good. There was something interesting from the Ben Affleck interview where he goes, I hope they maintain the integrity of what we did.
Yeah.
Now that's for me a dig at Warner Brothers for cutting up so many of the movies and touching the movies. Yeah. Because Ben Affleck, like in the moment, this feels great. This is a great moment and scene and stuff like that. I hope they leave it alone in the editing room. I hope Warner Brothers don't chop it up, which they could do. I think Ben was, that's what he was kind of hinting at. And then we got...
Says a lot considering the fact that Ben was a loyal Warner Brothers.
I know he won't direct at all. He won't do anything. The Lane Deli goes, yo guys, what's up, man? Brian says, and we will get the Batman tears from Flashpoint, but it will come from Keaton watching Affleck die, and Affleck will be crying as he dies. Okay, Brian, calm down, Brian. That's going to scare away a lot of children. I don't think they're going to like kill off Affleck like that.
I don't know.
I just don't see them killing off a Batman. Or maybe they will.
I don't either, but I don't know.
Where are they going to put him?
Ben Affleck saying that it's a nice finish. What could be more of a finish than having your character being killed?
Sacrifice himself for Flash?
I prefer him kind of like be kind of like left alone. That maybe like they do the Flashpoint ending of him getting the note from his dad. Maybe or some type of like, you know, reference to that, and you know, you can kind of like at least give him at least if you retire, have him retire or give him a happy ending.
Yeah, or like, you know what Flash, I mean? Like, do you want to come to this Earth? And Ben Affleck's like, no, I just want to stay here. Like, you brought all the villains over there. This Earth seems fine, so I'll just stay here.
The Wreck-It Ralph ending.
That's what Ben Affleck.
There you go.
Yeah. Brian also goes, I still worry about Machete blending stories. It's a big story to put together and to make it work. Like if he's touching Man of Steel and maybe Batman v Superman, like he has to match the aesthetic that Zack Snyder had.
Yeah.
If he's going to bring in General Zod and all that kind of, like, that's a lot to do. If he can't pull that off, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So yeah, Machete he's a big task on his hand, and I loved it. One was brilliant. It 2 was still good, but it kind of dragged on a bit, especially in the third act.
Yeah.
And it didn't kind of come off as well as it should have. Maybe because the kids were now adults and they're running away from a big clown. Maybe that's why. But yeah, so we'll have to see. But we still haven't got a proper trailer yet. The DC fandom one was just kind of wasn't even. I don't even think it was properly
Yeah.
color graded or anything yet and stuff like
Yeah.
that.